just go ahead. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I would like to call to order this regular meeting, February the 12th, 2018, Columbus Municipal School Board meeting to order. We do have a quorum present. If we could, I will ask Dr. Josie Shoemaker if she would ask tonight's prayer, followed by the pledge.
Would y'all pray with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight to ask your guidance during this meeting. We also ask, as always, forgiveness for our many sins, either committed or not, when we've forgotten things we should do or when we've done things we shouldn't. We'd like to thank you very much for everything that you have done for us today, all the things you've done for us in the past, and all the things you will do for us in the future, things we can't even imagine. Keep us in your thoughts, keep us safe, and bless everyone in the school district. This we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please rise with me. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome and thank everyone for being here this evening. Board, we do have our agenda for tonight's meeting in front of us, but I do know Dr. Hickman has a couple of additions or changes he needs to make.
Yes, Board. I'm asking if we can add a few items to the agenda tonight. At the last minute, we sent it to you guys, email that it's on board resources. We also should have copies in front of you. If we can start with the letter from the city, and we should have a copy back there from everyone if they're allowed to share. We could start with the City of Columbus. Okay, you want to wait? Mr. Shannon, I'm going to have you explain the City of Columbus one. So while he set it out, we'll start with the addition to the personnel agenda item for Mr. Hunley. If it is allowed, this item will go under, the first is staff personnel, number 8, 9, and 10. What they are, I'm sorry.
1, 6, and 7 is what it says.
Yeah, it says add 1, 6, and 7, but it will go under staff personnel 8, 9, and 10 on the agenda. I apologize.
Okay.
What that is, it starts out with a recommendation for a PE teacher at Stokes. Number 6 is an academic interventionist. It's going to be funded through federal programs. And number 7 is an academic interventionist at the high school funded through federal programs. Okay. The other would be an additional 4 under off contract, which will start on our new agenda at E 1 through 4. And that is to add an additional employee for after school, and that's covered under a 21st Century grant. The second one is also an after school substitute teacher at the middle school under our 21st Century grant. The third one would be a homebound teacher. That's under district funding. The reason why we would add a homebound teacher, in case you guys don't know, if we have a student who is not able to attend school, but they still have a right to an education, but they have a health-related illness or something that's preventing them from attending school, and so therefore we will have to pay for a teacher off contract to go either meet them at their house or meet them at another location. And last but not least, add an employee for MMAP interventionist teacher at the high school under federal funding. Under the consent agenda, we have, and Ms. Holmes, would you like to talk about the consent agenda item, which is Consideration to accept a donation.
Mr. President, Dr. Hickman, members of the Board of Trustees, what you have before you as being a later requested agenda addition is a donation we just received today in the business office, and we wanted to move forward with getting those funds to the school location with the board approval.
Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Shannon, if you can talk about what will go under item L, under superintendent recommendation from the City of Columbus Park and Rec. If you want to add clarity to that, please.
Yes, sir. President Spears, Dr. Hickman, members of the board, you do see before you a request from the City of Columbus, the Columbus Recreation Department. As you know, they use our Hunt facility, the gym, for after-school activities for our youth. Now they're enhancing that program by adding a skills building class at Hunt. They are building storage rooms for skill building, and they cannot do that on the inside. There's a grassy area on the outside between the two buildings. They want to build it there, and they're asking permission to use that area also on the outside of between the buildings at Hunt.
And right now we're just right now we're asking to put them on the agenda. Then when we want to discuss it, we're able to. We're just asking for permission to put these last minute items, since we already met and we didn't have time to add them then.
So just to recap, so that the board understands where everything will be placed, looking at the packet of information that Ms. Belma had passed out to us, is if you look on the staff personnel items, you'll notice the highlighted individuals. Those are the different individuals that was just mentioned that we would add to tonight's agenda, and they're already ordered in this particular packet. And then if you go to the last page, you'll see recommendations for off-contract work. It's a little bit restructured, but it is highlighted. And so those are the changes that we'll see to our staff personnel, which is different than what we have on the agenda on board book at this moment. So those are the changes we'll be recommending in adopting tonight's agenda. Secondly, when we look at tonight's agenda on board book, you'll see it stops at H, which is the consideration to accept International Advantage rebate cards. So the donation that was just discussed will become I.
So that's 9I, correct?
Pardon?
9.
Under Roman numeral 9.
Under Roman numeral
consent.
9.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Under Roman numeral 9, it will be I. Okay. And then lastly, with respect to the request to build, to use the facilities at Hunt to build the storage house, that will be listed under the Office of the Superintendent, which is Roman numeral 12, and it will be listed as the last item, which will be L, as in Lima. So when we approve tonight's agenda, just understand that as we go through it, those will be it may not show up on board book, but it is included in the packet that we have. So does anyone have any questions about it? Okay, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we move into tonight's agenda. It's a special occasion that we have our Teachers of the Year here this evening, and then also we'll be able to do our Administrator of the Year. But before we get to that, we'll have our minutes. So, board, we need to approve 4A, which is our consideration to approve the January the 8th, January the 17th, January the 26th, and January the 27th board meeting minutes. So, board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to 4B, which is trustee travel and discussion. We have one, consideration to approve board members to attend the MSBA 46th annual conference coming up for expenses that will be incurred on February the 19th through the 21st. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to C, 4C, which is consideration to approve CMSD Superintendent Search Brochure. Board, I know there is a couple of adjustments, I think it was mentioned, with respect to this brochure. And so before we get to any motion, we'll need to clarify those specific changes to be included in the motion. So would you like to?
Yeah, I was just reading over it, and the description of the Columbus Municipal School District is only 3 sentences. I think there are a lot of great things here that we could add to what is down in writing. We don't talk about the AP or dual enrollment programs. We don't have our mission statement. I think we've got great computer stuff. I think that should go in there. And also, I noticed that one of the brochures we had as an example had the whole school, the Mississippi Arts Commission whole school initiative, the model school for the arts, and I think that could go in. And also under district data, I noticed a number of the other brochures had the number of certified teachers, also number of employees, and I think we could really fill this out, because other brochures have at least a couple of paragraphs, and ours only has 3 sentences, so I think we need to take a look at that.
Okay. So, Board, with respect to the brochure that's been provided to us for consideration, I would ask that we include a statement that spotlights our AP as well as dual enrollment programs that we currently have being ongoing in the district, along with our advancements in investment in technology as we kind of go forward in that particular area, as well as the mission statement of the school district. So with those additions to what's presented to us tonight, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of the changes in the brochure, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we move to...
Mr. Spears?
Yes.
Was that the motion to approve the brochure or the
With
changes to the brochure?
Changes to the brochure and the brochure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just want to make sure.
That's correct. Yes, sir. With those items of sentence to be added about the AP and dual enrollment programs, the investment in technology, as well as the mission statement, in addition to what's already approved, this part of the brochure. Next, we go to item 4D, which is consideration to approve removal. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay. Next, we come to item 4D, which is consideration to approve removal of all for sale signs at Brandon Central Office Campus here. Board, I need a motion for approval. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion?
Oh, go ahead, Angela. No.
No, you go.
I was just going to ask why.
That was my question as well.
Sure. Well, number one, as we're going through the different process here, is that Brandon is not for sale. And so I'm consulting with Mr. Dunn. He said in order for the signs to actually come down, we would have to have board approval to take the signs down.
The reason, but the signs went up with board approval, and the trustees are the trustees of all the land. So if something's going to be done on this land, you've got to act through your minutes to have it come down.
Right, and I agree with that, Mr. Dunn, but I just don't remember we ever made the decision that Brandon was not for sale. So are we tonight making the decision that Brandon is no longer for sale, and then we're going to vote to remove the for sale sign? Or what is it that we're being asked to do? It's like we're being asked to remove the signs. However, the facility is still for sale.
Well, I have not, unless I've overlooked it, the only property that's been declared surplus was Lee property that's for sale.
I think maybe the Magnolia Bowl
And
also.
the Magnolia Bowl.
Those
Okay.
are two properties.
So Brandon itself, no. So, so that's one of the main reasons is because we have a fully functioning operation here. You know, there's, you know, the central office operation that's going on here. And I think it's even been mentioned before about how that, you know, we have parents coming here, we have, you know, other people coming to this office, and we have the for sale signs out front. And so it just never really got brought back up. And so I just felt like that since it had been talked about before, that we would bring it back up for discussion and follow through.
Okay, so discussion not just to remove the sign, but the discussion to take this property off the market is what we're saying. That it's not going to be available for sale, because I think the last discussion we had was that the services here at Brandon Central Services could be placed at Hunt School, and that this would be a facility for sale.
Right.
So I don't know if I missed that discussion, but I don't believe that we've had that discussion, and I don't think the board has taken an action to
Right.
take it off the market.
Well, and I mean, that type of relocation would be up for a superintendent to make that decision. We as trustees have to decide, we have this property, and so if we're trying to sell it or not, and, you know, and that would be something for, you know, the superintendent to make that type of decision. That wouldn't be a board call.
So,
And so-
the motion really is to take the property off the market. Is that the action that we're trying to take tonight?
No, I mean, the motion is just that we would be removing
remove
the
the sign.
signs. I mean, if someone still is interested in the property, I guess they could still bring us the offer at any time. Mr. Dunn, am I incorrect in saying that? I mean,
No, sir. I mean, you own the property, so if somebody's willing to pay enough, I'm sure that it could become for sale.
Right.
But you'd have to take action to declare it surplus and go through that process
Right.
first.
right.
Okay, so we're not saying that it couldn't be for sale, you're just saying you want to
Right.
remove the sign from
Correct.
the yard.
Correct. And so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. Okay, all in opposition? It does carry 3-1. Please let the record reflect Mr. Sparks, Dr. Shoemake, Mr. Spears in favor, and Dr. Purdell in opposition. Next, we move to our next item on tonight's agenda, which is 4E, which is consideration to approve auditor's engagement letter. We have Mr. Shivers and his team in the district. I met with him briefly this afternoon to kind of go over some of the things he wanted to go over with me as they start their evaluation of the 2016-2017 school year books. And so this letter of engagement is just so that I would be able to sign off, as Dr. Hickman has, so them to complete their work for that time period. So, Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sparks made the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item number 5 on tonight's agenda, which we have Columbus Municipal School District 2017-18 Building Level Teachers of the Year. And so, Dr. Hickman, I'll turn it over to you.
Ms. Lenore, if we can please. And Board, I think we want the Board to come up here.
Mr. President, Dr. Hickman, and members of the board, it gives me great pleasure, as always, to be able to announce the Teachers of the Year for the Columbus Municipal School District. As we know, these are the people who are in the trenches each and every day, making sure that our students are getting the type of education that they deserve. So at this time, I am very honored and very pleased to announce the following teachers as they have been named Teacher of the Year by their peers at their respective schools. We will start off today's recognition by recognizing Ms. Kimberly Cook, a teacher at Columbus High School. Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook, thank you for the work that you do for our students each and every day. From Columbus Middle School, we recognize Ms. Ashley McGregory. Ms. McGregory, we appreciate the work that you do. From Columbus Success Academy, Ms. Demetria Wilson Stewart. Thank you, Ms. Stewart, for your work. Representing McKellar Technology Center, we have Mr. Jakirio Dismuke. Mr. Dismuke is not with us this afternoon. He sends his regrets. He had a previous engagement, but we would like to thank him for the work he does at McKellar. From Cook Elementary School, we would like to recognize Ms. Sharita O'Neill. Congratulations, Ms. O'Neill. From Fairview Elementary School, Ms. Amy Smith Clark. Thank you, Ms. Smith Clark. And Ms. Julia McDill represents Franklin Academy this year. Ms. McDill, we appreciate all that you do. And from Sale Elementary School, Ms. Takaya Burnett. Thank you, Ms. Burnett. And finally, representing Stokes Beard Elementary School, Ms. Dana Roberts. Congratulations, Ms. Roberts. Miss Stewart to the front. Thank you. We're going to ask everyone to stay where they are because it gives me the privilege and the honor, not that you all are, every one of you who stand before us today certainly deserve the recognition that has been bestowed upon you. But at this time, we would, I'm not done. I was going to. We would like to, drum roll, Ms. Verdell, Dr. Verdell, announce the District Teacher of the Year, and it does give me the great privilege and honor to be able to announce that Ms. Ashley McGregory is our District Teacher of the Year, representing Columbus Middle School. Thank you, Ms. McGregory. We appreciate all of the work that each and every one of you do for the students in the Columbus Municipal School District. Your work certainly does not go unnoticed. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, ladies. Okay. Yeah, Ms. McGregory. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you to all those teachers that give of their time each and every day to make sure our students are well taken care of. Just a side note, I've had a chance to visit Mrs. McGregory's class on numerous occasions. I think she doesn't get nervous anymore when I come by. She sees me so much. But I saw her teaching her own individual class, and it's unbelievable the expectations that she has for those students. And expectations, they drive performance. They know what she expects when they walk in, while they're there, and when they leave. But I also had the chance to visit her second classroom, I guess. We had trouble getting a sub one day, so she volunteered to take 2 math classes so they wouldn't get behind and move them to, I think, a dance studio at the middle school. So she had about 50 students at one time, and she did not miss a beat. And just so you know, I actually learned something that day, and you're an excellent teacher if you taught me something, so great job. And of course, we do know she comes from very good stock, so we appreciate you guys for letting us have it. With our teachers also, they can only perform well when they have good administrators. We have an excellent team of building level administrators here in our district. All of our administrators do a wonderful job with making sure our teachers have the resources they need and giving all of our students the love and nurturing that they deserve. So our administrators, hats off to you for a job well done each and every day. But each year we have to make the tough choice of choosing one to be our district administrator of the year. And this person has served in a capacity that I think is one of the toughest jobs in a public school system. With all of the extracurricular activities that go on, the large staffs, the travel to and from athletic events, and also keeping up with graduation requirements and things of that nature, and also making sure student achievement is at a high level. Everyone knows that the high school is the climax or the pinnacle of what a public school system is judged by. We're very happy to report this year, as you already know, our Columbus High School did achieve a successful B rating this year, and we know that the teachers did the great job of helping us to achieve that, but attitude reflects leadership, and Columbus High School had outstanding leadership, and their leader is none other than Mrs. Laura Cargile, the Columbus Municipal School District Administrator of the Year. Congratulations. And it's not on the agenda, so I'm going to try to slip it in before Mr. Spears tells me to stop. I've been working here for about, I think, 11 years, and I've had the privilege of working with Mrs. Dr. Verdell for many of those years, and as you all know, tonight is her final board meeting. That gives me great sadness, but I know that she has other work to do that the Lord has for her to accomplish. I applaud you for always putting the needs of children first and not the need of adults, always being fair and consistent with your decisions that you make, and always trying to do the right thing with the information that you have. All of our board members have a tough job. I don't know how you guys do it with trying to juggle everything that you have to juggle and do what's right for our school district. Mrs. Verdell, you have gone above and beyond the call of duty and everything that you do, and I'm sad for me and for our staff because we don't have you as a resource to rely on, but I'm happy for you that you kind of served your time as being a board member, and now you're ready to do some other things, but I do know you will still be an advocate for our school district, an advocate for children, and a great, great stakeholder in this community, so we appreciate you. And if you guys don't mind, please join in with me with giving Mrs. Verdell a standing ovation for her outstanding service.
All right. Okay. Come on. All right. So now we are returning to our agenda tonight, and that was a great honor to be able to see the teachers that are in the classroom every day and putting in the effort that they do. And along with the strong administrators that I know we have in this district, I see this district continuing to thrive and pick up and go. And Mr. Shannon, I would not have shut you off on that. I actually had it to address it later on. But good job. But now we go to our next item on the agenda, which is item number 8, CMSD Special Education Department and Services Update. Dr. Cheryl Smith and Dr. Hickman, I'll turn it over to you.
Dr. Smith, if you can please come to the podium. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Smith.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. President, Dr. Hickman, members of the board. It gives me great pleasure to stand here to give you some updates of the Office of Special Education here in Columbus. We are currently addressing the 3 formal complaints violations mandated by MDE, Office of Special Education. At this time, we have submitted the corrective action plans for the 3 violations, and we are in the process of carrying out each one of them. Specifically, we had to reconvene IEP meetings and discuss the issues found to be non-compliant on each case, and to make the appropriate recommendations as to offer the children a free appropriate public education. We were advised to provide ongoing professional development to all special education teachers, staff, and administrators. And our first professional development began on January the 3rd and January the 5th of 2018. We have reviewed all IEPs of current special education students for the 2016, 2017, and 2017-2018 school year to check for the completion of the report of progress. An official letter was sent to parents to inform them of the IDEA regulation pertaining to the report of progress regarding their child's IEP. This letter explained corrections to be made and the procedures for reporting grades to parents for continuous grading periods. We were to review and update, if necessary, school board policies as they pertain to students with disabilities, related services, and such. And we are to develop and implement the district's process and procedures to use as a guideline to provide related services as required for students with disabilities. Our current and future actions to be taken by our district to address the compliance. We're offering small group and/or individual meetings with special education teachers through PLCs to ensure we are following guidelines as set forth by MDE related to our special ed students. We are currently reviewing a computerized IEP program. This will allow the teachers to accurately develop and manage their student IEPs, whereas the special ed department will have access to review IEPs on a regular basis. We are tentatively planning a parent meet and greet to be scheduled for sometime this month. It is our goal to foster a positive communication channels between the special ed department, parents, and the community stakeholders. I have scheduled to meet with the Special Education Advisory Committee to provide a collaborative relationship regarding both of our vision, goals, and objectives. Now, we do have a systematic complaint out there, and we have not received written communication regarding this complaint issue, but we have been informed that MDE has 60 days after the audit to make the report to the school district, and those 60 days will end by the end of February. Our additional information to obtain and maintain the vast number of regulations set by MDE, experienced and certified staff members in the special ed department are essential. Positions critical to the department are a case manager, psychologist, psychometrist, behavior specialist, and speech language pathologist. We have reached out to several entities regarding psychologists, psychometrists, and SLPs. We are pleased that we have the availability of the interns from Mississippi State University, but we would like to have someone on staff daily. We are pleased to be making a recommendation for the case manager position tonight. We hope the board will consider our recommendation. As part of the corrective action plan from MDE requires teachers, administrators, and staff to receive ongoing, high-quality professional development. The plan states that training must be provided in the following areas: IEP development, autism, report of progress, etc. The department is planning to schedule additional professional development services if the contract for Dupree and Associates is approved. We plan to meet with teachers as a whole, as well as on a daily, as well as school by school. I'm sorry, this is my first time. So
No, go ahead. No, you're doing great.
You're doing an excellent job.
Yes, you are.
We plan to meet with teachers as a whole, as well as on a school by school basis. We are going to provide they are going to provide technical assistance to the special education office staff. Again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to serve as a special education director for the district. We are working to ensure that the needs of our students are being met by providing the necessary services and supports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smith. And one thing that I will say that it's very heartening to hear is that you're working to the end of addressing some of the issues that were brought to this board at our special education meeting that we had back in September. One about being able to have this fluid dialogue between not just sitting in a meeting, but having an openness of the department and the people who work in the department and the leaders of the special education department and the parents and the other students and other parts. So the meet and greet, I think, is a great step in that direction. And hope, as you have these events, certainly if you would be able to broadcast that to us, just so that you're, talk to Dr. Hickman or Ms. Velma to put them on our agenda so that as we have that, we can promote them the same as we do testing and other things. So I like to hear that very much. The other side of it, too, is, the professional development you outlined. I think that's something that's really great in a sense, is to reinforce what people already know, but then build off of it. Use some type of scaffolding methodology to be able to strengthen, those principles and what you're trying to do. And certainly, as we talked about in our meeting, I know that, you have a certain finite amount of money that is allocated by a certain equation, But just as I think this board is committed to doing for all students, we also want to make sure your department is that if you're having to look at different personnel to make sure you're fully staffed, you know, be able to come to us and talk to us and don't feel that we're standing there saying no before you even arrive. So I think that's the key that we want you to understand as we move forward. But board, do you have any other comments or questions regarding Dr. Smith's presentation tonight?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Smith. That was a thorough report. But I have a couple of questions. You said that we still have the outstanding systematic claim that was made. Is that the one where it was stated that all students who have IEPs are not being served adequately?
Yes.
Okay, so we have how many more days before that expires? You said the end of the month?
Right. It should be about February 28th when we
Okay.
get that report, on or about.
Okay. My next question is, going forward, what do you plan to do to be able to kind of make sure that there are checks and balances in place so that these IEP programs, that the students are getting what they need, so we don't have the slip-ups and things that fall through the crack?
Well, we plan to do various classroom observations.
Okay.
That's why I said we're meeting with teachers on a whole, as well as on a school-by-school basis, to make sure that we're providing them with the necessary resources that they need to make things happen for our children with disabilities.
Okay. And then lastly, in terms of, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but recruiting teachers, because we know that there are a couple different routes that you can take to become a teacher and a special needs teacher. Are we going to do something to kind of make sure that those teachers are high-quality teachers on the front end as best we can?
Absolutely. I plan to meet with them as well as with Ms. Lenore, and we will just sit down and let them know this is what's expected. Special education is not an easy job.
Right.
You know, you have to be a committed person.
Right.
So that's what we're looking for, someone who's just committed and have a heart for the special ed children.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
And just one final thing is, you know, when we ask, you know, the board to, you know, come present to us and everything, we want this to be kind of the ongoing dialogue between us and the department as we work through. We understand that you are working through putting out some fires and some other issues that exist, but also in a constructive way so that we stay informed, but also in being able to help you continue to service the students as best as possible. So thank you so much for taking time to come and share with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Board, next we go to our item number 9, which is the consent agenda. We have A, which are dates to remember, academic dates, athletic dates, and our upcoming board meetings. Then we have B, which is consideration to approve McKellar Technology overnight field trip to Jackson, Mississippi. Then we have C, which is consideration to approve Columbus Middle School baseball schedule. And then we have the Columbus High School 2018 track and field schedule is D. E is the Columbus High School golf schedule. F is the donation from Mims and Swartz to Sale Elementary. G is going to be consideration to accept donation from Banktel Systems to Columbus High School Freshman Academy. H is going to be consideration to accept International Advantage rebate cards. And I is an item that we added tonight, which is consideration to accept donation from WG 1050 AM, 1050 AM from Miss Moody. And so, board, with the items that are listed under the consent agenda, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got to recuse myself.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And if anybody needs to know, it's for item F.
Yeah, okay. All right, so for the consent agenda, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. All right. If you would just tell Dr. Shoemake we're through that part. Yeah. Okay. And so next we come back to the next item on the agenda, which is going to take us to item 10. We have open forum. We don't have anyone signed up, but we do have a request to appear. Ms. Virginia Birchfield. So Ms. Birchfield, if you would come forward. Welcome and good evening. Hello.
To the President of the Board, Dr. Hickman, I do appreciate this opportunity, but I had asked to appear before the Board, and I think you may have information concerning why I wanted to come. We had a pipe to burst under the slab at Union Academy, and we rent Union Academy, RTP of Mississippi. Upon receiving that information, I was shocked myself, so I am pursuing additional remedies for that. So at this time, I don't have anything that I would necessarily like to bring to the board except to make you aware that we have no running water. It's very difficult to conduct business like that. But looking at the bid that they gave us, it started at one price and it went way up. And I know then making a good decision on how to manage your finances, you probably would not be able to act favorably upon that. But I'm meeting with my board so that we can come up with additional recommendations that maybe the school board can assist us with.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I think Dr. Hickman, I think there was about insurance or something, or is that, or Mr. Dunn?
Well, I believe Mr. Shannon has contacted our insurance company. We're waiting on maybe filed a claim to see if there is any coverage. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mr. Spears, Dr. Hickman, Mr. Dunn, members of the board. As you know, our lease states that all maintenance and repairs are RTP's responsibility, but our insurance company they checked our policy, and we have a $10,000 deductible. And the original price quote that Mrs. Birchfield was given, and now, as she stated, the price has gone way up. The original cost would not have met our deductible at all, so we would not be able to make a claim. Now with this new information, we may be able to make a claim, but still the district has to decide, are we going to pay the $10,000 deductible? Because that has to be met before any claims can be processed. But as Mrs. Birchfield is gathering more information, I think it will give the board a clearer picture as to where we are with insurance and the other issues. But that does not remedy the fact that the water and things are not properly working at that site. At no fault of ours, of course, or hers. It's just a natural disaster with the extreme temperatures.
Then, I would just recommend at this particular time, I mean, there's no action that we can take. If you would continue to discuss with your board and then bring back to us more information to evaluate, then we could take, because I know if we were working together as a board to create the last lease, one of the things we discussed is because it is the property that we don't have students at, that, if we're going to be allocating, large sums of money to roofs or other repairs or things at a building, it would be something that, we have active student participation at every day. But certainly if you want to continue to evaluate options and then come back and see where the board and your organization can evaluate those options, I think that, we're open to do that.
I have a question. So in terms of the contract, and I apologize, I didn't know that this is what the item was about, or I would have reviewed the contract to read the language for myself. But the contract, Mr. Dunn, does it read any major repairs? Does it read any repairs, period?
All maintenance and repairs is on the tenant.
Maintenance and repairs?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing dealing with structural issues?
This actually came up and was
Right.
debated, and the language that was placed in the lease was deliberate to try to get out of the business because it was just costing the district so much for maintenance and repairs in old buildings.
Mhm. And so the annual amount of money that we generate from this arrangement, is it 24, 20?
I think it's about
20
18,000, between 18 and
$18,000.
19,000 a year, yes.
Okay.
And I mean, just the claim that was initially talked about would have been 80% of that amount, so. But I mean, if we go back and get other bids and find other things, that might change. But
But the money that's generated from this lease,
it's about 18 to 19,000. It's 16-section property, and so
Right.
the lease itself, I mean, the building can't be sold, but I mean, as far
Right.
as the lease itself is for the grounds.
but the money that we generate from this site is to pay the insurance. Is that correct?
I mean, we
Mr.
do have insurance on it that we're having to pay out of that amount as well.
Right. Do we know what that is on an annual basis? Oh, okay.
And that's something, if we could just ask Dr. Hickman if he could have his staff look into as to the cost of insurance for that facility.
Right, just to see kind of where you are. Would you be upside down, or would it be an
Sure.
even? Because we're not in the business of making a profit off of the facility. So that would be my concern.
Right.
But
Okay.
I won't be here past today.
Right.
So.
And Ms. Birchfield, if you would, just if any information, if you would communicate that to Dr. Hickman so that he'd be able to share that with the board, that we could, of course, put with information that had already been provided. I think it was a quotation from a particular plumbing service or something that had looked at the facility.
I guess my last question would be, are you operating any services right now in the facility?
Minimally, because if you really can't stay in the building because
Yeah.
there's no running water. So
Right.
we're there for a few hours and then we're gone. So
And what services are you operating?
we do a home buyers education program. That's the only grant that RTP is currently operating. So what we do is we get people who are interested in buying a home for the first time, and they may not have any knowledge about what that process looks like. They may have credit challenges, and we deal with all of that in order to help them become first-time home buyers.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, board, we will move to item 11A, which is our monthly financials. Board, we have before us our monthly financial statements of fund balance, cash balance, and budget status report. We have our monthly revenue budget report, monthly expenditure budget report, certification and summary of reconciled bank statements. So, board, I need a motion for approval of the financials.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of approval, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to our monthly ad valorem tax collection analysis. I think one thing that stuck out to me is that we were trending behind by about $192,000, and I'm hoping that January, in the heart of where we're coming through, is going to turn the tide on that. So, Dr. Hickman, do you?
Mr. President, Dr. Hickman, members of the Board of Trustees. Yes, sir, Mr. Spears, we were trending about $200,000 behind in collections versus last fiscal year. However, with the January collections, we're expected to make significant ground up with that. I talked to Mr. Andrews, and we're expected to receive nearly $6.3 million for January's collections. With that receipt of funds, we should actually be about $200,000 by when we receive the check for January collections. We should actually be about $200,000 ahead versus this time last year.
That's great news. Okay. So that's the ad valorem tax collection report. Board, is there any other questions about the report? Next, we go to our number 6, which is athletic events report. Board, any questions about the athletic events report? Next, we go to consideration to approve fixed asset disposals. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to our claims docket. Board, I need a motion to approve the claims docket.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Discussion. A couple questions I have looking through the docket that I'd just like clarification on. I think I'd emailed you, Dr. Hickman, regarding there's a charge we're being asked just down the way here, and I think it was actually spoken to by Dr. Smith about Dupree Educational Services. And so one of the options there is listed before we approve the contract for $4,800, which is option 1 listed. So what I'm trying to understand is that how are we paying something on the day's docket, because we as a district can't prepay fees, but how are we paying $4,800 when we're being asked to approve a contract as option 1 being that same amount for those services?
Okay. And may I pass it to Ms. Lenore?
Sure. Mr. President, Dr. Hickman, members of the board, the charge that you see on the claims docket for this month in regards to Dupree and Associate, that is for previous work. We had Dupree and Associates to come in based on the timeline that we were given to complete some of the professional development from the corrective action plan prior to presenting the proposal to you all tonight. The proposal tonight is for some ongoing training that has been listed in the corrective action plans from the Mississippi Department of Education, so we are in need of additional training. We went through the proper purchasing laws along with Ms. Holmes, who helped us with that process of making sure that we had 2 quotes when we solicited their support for the first set of professional development that was conducted within the district. But under the constraints of the timeline that the Department of Education had given to us, we had to get that training done on, Dr. Smith mentioned that January 3rd and January the 5th, because we were already outside of the dates established by the Mississippi Department of Education.
Okay. And so this would have been the same system that you use now that was utilized when we used them in October 2015 and December 2015 for the $7,000, each of those different training periods. Is that correct?
I can't speak to that. I'm not aware of what happened back then.
Okay. So, but tonight, what's option 1 and option 2 and 3 and 4, the different amounts as they go up for the different periods of time, length of time that they're servicing the district, this will be a new way of engaging this particular firm in the district for the training we need, and this will be only for services in the special education department?
That's correct. This is for special education only, because she specializes in special education, so we look for people who could do work that specialized in special education. We have also secured a second quote to be so that we would know which vendor to put forth to the board tonight.
Sure. Okay. All right. Board, is there any more questions about tonight's docket? We have a motion and a second for approval. If there's no more discussion, all in favor of approving the bills, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item C, which is going to be the discussion of the school year 2018-2019 budget. Board, I put this on tonight's agenda just because, you know, we had talked at our last meeting about the timeline of the budget and what we're going to try to cover, as we've done in previous years, as to kind of breaking it up into different segments and being able to kind of push them together with respect to building out the budget for the upcoming school year. Just in one thing that I would like to ask the board is that we do a thorough evaluation of all the different programs that we have that we're using technology-wise in the district. You know, just from the different instances that I know that some are come up for auto renewal at different times, and so it would just be something that I believe that as we go into our budget process, that we would identify all the different technology that we have, whether it be Next Tier, Fish Tree, Bright Bites, any programs that we have, that we would be able to quantify those in dollar amounts and see how relevant they are and how useful they are in our district as we go forward. Just in the sense of, yes, Dr. Hickman?
No, I was going to let you finish, but how would you like us to give it to you, that information?
Well, to the board, yes.
Right, yeah.
What I would say is just that as we go, and basically it's not necessarily compiling a special report as much as it is about as we go into the budgeting process, accounting for it, because I know you talk about how much you're spending in the elementary, how much you're spending in the middle school, how much you're spending in the high school, and so those costs will either be quantified as one cost or they'll be prorated across those different levels. And so I would just think that if we could identify, because they should have their own function code or something to that effect, so we would be able to identify them on their molecular level to be able to see all these programs and which ones are useful, because I know with changing standards, changing kind of migration away as to how testing is administered, that we have to align with those new mandates, and so it would just be that we identify and analyze those particular programs. Yes.
So how in-depth do you guys want us to go in the programs? Is it just the academic programs? Like, help me understand. Do you also want non-technology programs that we're using? For instance, we're going to start the Leader in Me. You want that also factored out? You know, the social emotional, just any kind of programs, or is it just a technology program?
Well, let's be clear. The program is technology. It's not necessarily just a because the Leader in Me and different things, is it a technology-based program? And this is just more technology-based, because I know, for example, like Fish Tree, I think $49,000, and it's on an auto renewal, and so we need to evaluate it with great due diligence to make sure that it is fitting for what we're trying to orchestrate in the district. And so that's just all I was saying, is that we need to look at it on that, because if we're trying to put more money in the classroom and we're going to try to make sure that we can get more money to teachers in the classroom, we're going to have to find it from other places. And that's going to be the first thing that we need to do, is be able to find out as to what technologies we have that may not have as high utilization rates because of things that the state's already pushing out that we're using as a more, and I don't know what those are. That's why I was talking to the board, so that we would be able to decide what programs are brought back that would be useful. So
question, are you looking to quantify how many technology programs there are? Are you trying to quantify and qualify to know if those programs are effective or not? Because I'm trying to understand, how is this board going to make that decision of whether or not it's needed or it's effective? We don't know. That's not. So we're going to have to rely on someone else to kind of give us some information. So
exactly.
So no. So what are we going to use to kind of do that? Are we just looking at the cost of it, or?
No.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand where I'm following you.
Yeah.
What you're basically asking is how, as a board, we can actually gauge it ourselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the information would still have to come from Dr. Hickman, whatever it is that we need.
Absolutely.
But it's not the board saying this isn't good enough, or, my understanding of it is, where are we with it versus what we're spending on it. That's my understanding of it.
Because, for example, I know Dr. Hickman arranged for us to have a presentation by Bright Bites and put up all the student data and different things. Well, at that particular point, we'd ask them different questions. And so it's just more along the lines of us not necessarily being able to say whether it is useful or whether it's not useful, but being able to identify all the costs for all the different technologies. There may be some that's left from administration or two ago that's still flowing through the district. Are those useful? It's not necessarily just the here and now, so that we can just really discern this is how much money is being spent on these programs, and is it really supportive of what we are trying to do in the district, or is it just a nice to have add-on? And I'm not saying I know of any of those, but I'm just saying that we just need to look at it, because I just think that if we're talking about, okay, ACT, we're talking about other things that people are needing to have, would it make more sense to say, okay, well, if those are the focuses and the mandates coming down from Jackson, and they want higher ACT scores, they want more focus in these areas, do we need to be spending $49,000 over here when that $49,000 could be going over there. And that's for, as we go into this budgeting process, for us not to make that determination, but for us to at least be able to quantify and identify what those expenditures are, so that we can see which ones are more relevant than others based off of the recommendations being given to this board for the next year's budget. That's my point on it. It's
Okay.
because right now there's been so many different things over over a period of time that have come in, and I don't, when I look through the docket, I can see this being paid and that being paid, and this is once a year and that's every quarter. And so it's just a matter of, okay, as we're fashioning our new budget, we just need to make sure that we understand these are the ones and why they're in the district, and these are the ones and, whether or not they can continue to be in the district.
Okay, so then pretty much you're looking for the cost and you're looking for the quantity.
Right. I mean, I can go through the expenditure budget report and I can identify which of the different ones are being spent and how much they're being spent. And I can also look at the docket and I can reconcile it back as to which are annual and which are quarterly and which are monthly. But what I'm just trying to understand is that from an academic perspective, these are the different technologies we have here. These are the ones that are mandated that we have by the state, following all the standards and reporting and different things we have to do. And these are the ones that we felt like would help us kind of move in a way or a vision that we were wanting to do that may not necessarily be as strong as to what we have over here. And that's all I'm saying. And we're in this early developmental period of it, is to be able to go through that process of evaluating the cost and other parts of it. So,
Well, I hope that iNow is in that group of softwares that are being evaluated.
okay.
And I hope
See,
the
I mean, there's
effectiveness
another- I mean,
of it is evaluated as well.
So that's why I was just saying, instead of identifying one or two, just see what they all are, because they're there in our expenditure report, and they're there on our expenditure budget report, but they're also there on the docket, and it's just, now as we're kind of moving to the end of the year, we are able to clearly identify which ones will be there as we move forward. So any other questions or comments about the upcoming 2018-19 budget planning? Okay. You have something? Okay. 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 Next, we go to item, make sure this, I think it's 11D, which is discussion and consideration to accept proposal from MJB Services for IDA and preschool fiscal management assistance. In evaluating the information here, I see what was presented to us as a contract. The only question I have in doing my due diligence on it is this particular firm, engaged in doing this type of work, Dr. Hickman?
I prefer you to ask there's two questions I think you asked during agenda review, and you asked about the replacement of Holly. I want to have that discussion too. I think, because you were on the tip of saying something about you feel that there should be a full-time employee. Not saying that that's what you committed, but you have questions about that we keep using contracted services.
Right, but that's a completely different item than this.
No, because this is to use for IDEA, right? For the amendments, so for budget amendments, same thing that we would have had an extra staff trained to do.
Okay.
But okay, so I'm sorry. Let me not take y'all track if that's not the discussion you guys wanted to have.
I'm not off track, but what I'm saying is that what I'm trying to understand is this particular entity. When I did research and I searched the company through the Secretary of State's business search, and I evaluated other resources that I have to see, I didn't see anywhere it being registered, number one, through the Secretary of State's office, which that doesn't necessarily mean that it's an LLC or form, but at the same time, all I could find out is basic tax preparation and working with business. I couldn't find anywhere where they're doing work as what we're being requested to hire them to do.
Mr. Spears, Dr. Hickman, members of the Board of Trustees, the consultant that has been identified and presented the proposal is actually a 30-year plus business manager for a neighboring school district. The consultant actually has an active contract with the neighboring district and has been a consultant for federal programs for that neighboring district for the last 10 years. So she's well-versed in federal programs, fiscal management, and would be a great help in getting some things up to par with IDEA fiscal management.
Okay. So how does this structure in with the current, as Dr. Hickman was just talking about, the individual we have that's doing federal programs? Is this going to be a separate type or overlapping work?
No, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Johnson is tasked with handling the fiscal management for Title and other grants like 21st Century. This particular consultant would actually just be handling IDEA and preschool, which is a whole different separate sort of funding source of federal funds.
Could I join in your
just
conversation? Or just to ask?
And just to elaborate a little bit further, also remember one of the findings that we had was in some of the alignments from last fiscal year's audit. So we want to make sure that there are no issues there too. So just to put an experienced eye on certain reports like that, that could be crucial to our funding and also to our audit reports. I would like to have this consultant to come in and assist for a few days.
I guess one of the questions that he just asked, and I don't mean to ask it because I should have asked you. So are you saying that Ms. Johnson doesn't do that kind of work? Because she is Title and she is an experienced business manager, right?
Correct. I'm not saying that she does not do that kind of work. I'm asking, since I handle IDA fiscal management of funds now, this is a retired business manager who's well-versed in IDA funds. Ms. Johnson is contracted with the district Title to handle Title funds and 21st Century
So this is coming
funds.
out of your budget?
Correct.
Okay. And so the other question I have is just as we have later on is for Dupree, and not to jumble all of them up together, but it makes a disclaimer in there about being a retired state educator or in the system, and so we as a district have to make certain disclosures to the state about hiring. I don't know if there's a dollar amount that you have to have a threshold disclosure. Will this also require an additional disclosure to the state of hiring an individual to do it?
There will be a disclosure made to the PERS division. There is a form, I think it's 4B, that we have to report retirees to the state of Mississippi so that I don't know what all they take into consideration, but there is a form that will be completed by this consultant that will be sent to the State Department.
So based off the recommendation that we have of the contract proposal, that didn't make that same disclosure. So if the board were to decide that we wanted to follow through on this, would we, Mr. Dunn, I guess this is a question for you, is that just standard protocol or does that need to be part of, and what I'm saying is under this, it's basically saying that we hire and this is the amount of time and effort, and you see what's proposed before us tonight. Would we also need to include that disclosure to the state, or is that just standard protocol that if this would be approved by the board, that that would be a procedure that would be followed?
The disclosure really has to do with the other end. I mean, PERS wants you to disclose, and they want to make sure people are not retired and yet not
Double dipping or
retired.
something.
Right. That's right. So, but it's not, it's your responsibility just to report and comply and not worry about it.
Okay. All right, just to clarify. Okay. Board, is there any other questions? Sure.
Mr. Shannon, would you like to chime in?
Yes, sir, Dr. Hickman. Mr. Spears, members of the board, I just want to make sure that I'm clear and we're clear. This item that you're about to vote on is for SPED services. Mm-hmm. This is to look at the SPED books and make sure they're correct and how they can allocate money for some of the things that you're approving tonight. What Mrs. Johnson does is totally federal programs and does not cost the district any money. And this is, of course, coming out of district money for that. And I just want to make sure you guys understood that.
Right.
And okay.
Yes, and it also lists on here preschool fiscal management assistance in addition to IDA. So does that fall under SPED, or is that, okay, I just wanted to make sure of that clarification. Okay, so boards, any other questions or comments regarding item 11D? Okay, board, I need a motion for approval of the contract.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to Office of the Superintendent, School Operations, Superintendent Travel is A1. Dr. Hickman?
Yes, and the travel, I went down to Jackson to the Mississippi Superintendent Association. And I thought we already covered this, but of course I uploaded everything onto board resource. And they just, this year, I think it really talked about the general topics of, again, board and superintendent relation. Then it talked about ESSA and how that's going to come down the pipe and how that's going to affect us and the policies. And really that was the sessions that I really tried to concentrate on, was to look at our special education and how that's going to affect from a federal standpoint and our federal dollars, and then also look at strengthening the board and superintendent relations. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hickman. Board, is there any questions or anything regarding Dr. Hickman's report? Next, we'll move to item number 12B, which is consideration to approve agreement between Columbus Municipal School District and Yates Consulting, LLC. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item 12C, consideration to approve Leader in Me agreement for Cook Elementary. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Friedel. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, any discussion? Okay. Okay. All in favor of approval, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to 12D, which is consideration to approve Leader in Me agreement for Franklin Academy. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Friedel. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next is 12E, which is consideration to approve Capturing Kids' Hearts for Columbus Middle School. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Friedel. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. Any opposed? You're opposed, or?
No, I was
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry about that. All right, so it is unanimous. Next, we go to 12F, which is consideration to accept bid 655, the E-rate fiber connections. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next is item G, 12G, which is consideration to approve, is it Unity Fiber E-rate connection master telecommunications service agreement. That's a mouthful. So I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to discussion and consideration to approve Dupree Education Association proposal for professional consulting services. I think a lot of the questions have already been answered, other than, let me pull it up here because
This has got 3 options. So what are
it's
we-
got multiple options on
4
here, so,
options.
I mean, we don't know which is actually being recommended to the board.
So we need to know what the recommendation is.
Right. So we got to know which is being recommended to the board.
Ms. Lenore, since you handled that contract, do you know which one has been recommended?
Option 3.
Okay.
Can you explain a little more? I think.
And just while you're pulling it up, I'll go through. The option one was the 2 days with 2 consultants, maximum cost $4,800. Option 2 is 10 days with 4 consultants, and it's $48,000. Option 3 is 25 days, 20 days with 5 plus 5 professional development at a cost of $120,000 for 4 consultants. And then option 4, which was 40 days, 32 administrator and teacher, and then of course 8 days professional development, parent training, and that was $192,000.
We're proposing to use option 3 because we are looking at that one because we're looking at up to 25 days, considering that's how much time we feel like it's going to take to be able to provide the training necessary. Some of this we understand may have to take place during the summer because our time is running short within this school year, but once we looked at all of the different items and the different campuses that they will need to work with and the number of teachers, we feel like option 3 at this time will be best suited. And note that there is a maximum of 4. That's not saying that 4 consultants will be used each time that they come into the district, but up to 4 can work on any given particular day within this proposal that is being made.
Okay, and my biggest question is it in the budget?
That's why we had, why Ms. Holmes asked for the item to be presented to the board tonight. We are going to look at some of the funding within the, we do have monies in the special education budget, but we are going to look at some of the making amendments in the 2017 budget to be able to cover the cost of the training. This training is one of those things that's not optional. You all told us to ask, so we're asking. MDE has said that we have to have the training in order to complete the items within the corrective action plan, so this is one of the things that we're asking for your approval.
And just to clarify is that when I say is it in the budget, the money is in the budget. You just have to reappropriate it from different areas that may, when I look at the expenditure budget report, and it may say we've still got 100% available at this place to buy furniture or whatever there, then you can be able to kind of go through and pull all those assets together, dollars together, to be able to make up the amount that you need in addition to what's available under SPED?
That's a Ms. Holmes question, but she's nodding yes.
Okay, all right. So we wouldn't be.
We're not
so
asking.
So we're
not
asking,
asking for money out of
We're
fund
not.
balance. Is what
No,
he's asking.
we're not
That's my
asking
biggest
for
question,
fund balance.
right.
We're going to look at what's in the FY 2017 special education budget, the monies that were remaining in that budget, and what's currently in the FY 2018 budget for what was put in the budget lines for professional development or professional services within both of those, along with items within that 2017 budget that we have not used and don't foresee being needed at this point to be able to move that money into the professional development line so that we can cover the cost of the amount that's needed to have these services for our teachers.
okay.
And so then, Ms. Lenore, all of the funds that you have that you're looking to shift around, those are all SPED funds
They're
anyway.
SPED funds, correct. We're not asking, at this point, we're not necessarily asking the district for monies. We're asking the district to approve.
shift.
Right.
The
Once
shifting.
we bring the amendments forth, and Ms. Holmes has said that she plans to have those done with the assistance of the consultant that she's bringing in by the March board meeting.
And so for the additional services that you opted not to go with, I think option 4, how do we propose to meet those needs? And I think one of the services would be parent training. How do we propose to do that?
One of the things that we have found is that while Ms. Dupree is working with us, she has been very helpful to provide information to us and to provide resources to us while she's working. So we feel confident that we're going to be able to cover all of those areas, and within the 25 days that we have already asked for. Also, we also feel comfortable that Mr. Shannon will allow us to be able to use parental involvement monies from the federal side to be able to support this project as well.
Thank you. Very good.
All right. All right. So board
try
is,
harder.
the recommendation on this item is option 3. Board, with that being presented to the board for the Dupree Education Association proposal, option 3, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to I, which is the consideration to approve the 2018-2019 academic calendar. And before we do, Dr. Hickman, would you like to spotlight anything on the calendar?
Yeah, Mr. Shannon, if you want to highlight some of the great opportunities.
Yes, sir, Dr. Hickman, President Spears, members of the board. You see the calendar before you. We do have our wonderful students coming back on August the 6th. That gives them a little bit longer summer. Our teachers get to enjoy the entire month of July and return on August the 1st with 3 days of professional development for them. Also, we have the traditional holidays of Labor Day and a week at Thanksgiving. We have our fall break in October, followed by a parent-teacher conference day. Our teachers really asked for a 3-weekend time at Christmas, and we were able to deliver that with students and teachers coming back on January 7th. We have President's Day off in 2019, along with a week at spring break that aligns with the surrounding public school districts and colleges. And we have a 4-day break, weather permitting, in April for Good Friday and a school holiday on Monday. And our graduation is May 18th, which aligns with what we've done for the last several years. Do keep in mind we have not set a time on graduation because that always fluctuates with Bulldog weekend, so we have to wait for that actual time. Once that comes about, we will bring that contract before you sometime next year.
Dr. Hickman, I didn't see the great snow of 2019 factored in. Is that something we need to consider? No. Okay. All right. So, board, we have before us the That's true. That's very true. All right. So we have the 2018-2019 academic calendar. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks, been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item J, which is superintendent recommendations. We have consideration to approve staff personnel items. Board, there is one adjustment that we will need to make that just developed, and we will need to remove item under recommendations number 3. Is that correct, Dr. Hickman?
Yes.
Number 3.
For the football coach.
So that will not be part of the recommendation tonight. So everything that we talked about earlier of the new additions will be part of approval, up for approval tonight, except for item number 3 under recommendations.
Except on the new list, it's item number 4.
Yeah, that's what I was going to check here. It's item number 4 on the new list, excuse me. So it'll be 4, which is the Daryl Carter teacher, physical education, head football coach.
And I apologize, he pulled out at the last minute.
Okay.
He said the social media history.
Okay. So
So are we removing the interventionist at Stokes Beard and the physical education? That you said item number 3?
no, it's
No.
number 4. I'm sorry, because
Okay.
on the new list it's 4. It's still
So
on
item
board
number
book up
4.
on. It's number 3, but it's number 4.
It's only
Item
one
4.
item that we're asking to be
Yes.
removed. Just want to make
Item
sure.
It's just that item.
4.
Yes. So, so that item will not be part of what I'm asking that's been recommended to the board. So, board, to approve tonight's staff personnel items, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to consideration to approve recommended certified administrators for 2018-2019. Board, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. And one thing I'd like to say is now that we've approved the administrators is that we, I believe, have our new principal here with us. Dr.
Yes,
Hickman?
yes, Mr. Alexander. If you want to step forward, we really are appreciative of you accepting the Fairview position. If you want to address the board, speech.
All right, I didn't know y'all were going to ask me to say a few words, but thank you. Looking forward to it. I'm already looking at some data and going over some things, and looking forward to getting work with the teachers.
All right.
All right.
So,
Glad to have you part
We're
of
glad to have
thank
you.
y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. And we also, Mr. Brandon,
That's right.
he has accepted the
Yes.
cook position. If Mr. Brandon want to step forward. And we appreciate everything you do. You stepped into the role as the interim, and you had a lot of questions, and you said you're going to do your best, and you've done a great job for us. So we really appreciate you accepting this position.
Thank you all for the vote of confidence, and as we move forward, we ask that we continue to provide the support and guidance to all we do at Cook Elementary. Thank you.
All right. Good
Thank you,
job.
sir.
Now, Board, we'll go to our next item, which is J3, which is consideration to approve the 2018-2019 salary schedules for administrative positions. I think they'd like that, right?
So moved.
All right,
So
it's been
moved.
motioned by Dr. Purdell. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item K, which is the goal updates. We have our student attendance report. I think that's being brought up now. Dr. Hickman, would you like to comment on it any?
Mr. Shannon, did you want to highlight any of the attendance reports? Okay.
Okay. Board, any questions about the student attendance report? Okay. Next, we go to K2, which is the dropout report.
0.
0 is a good number to have.
No, Mr. Shannon, I'm sorry, I was asking. Oh, no comments, okay.
Okay. All right. Next, we go to, our board, is there any questions about the dropout report? Next, we go to the school safety report, the student discipline report for the district and the different school campuses. Board, is there any questions for anyone regarding the discipline report?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to recognize Stokes Beard. I mean, they've done a marvelous job keeping the discipline under control.
Excellent. Great job.
Good job, Stokes. Mrs. Gardner?
That's right. Next, we go to our teacher attendance report. It's all looking good. So, board, any questions or comments regarding teacher attendance? Okay. Next, we go to K5, which is going to be workers' compensation report. Board, the safety reports, any questions about it? Okay. And next is an added item that we have is L, which is the request to use the facilities at Hunt. And so I think, Dr. Hickman, you have more comments about it.
Mr. Shannon, do you want to further clarify? Basically what they're asking is to use that grassy area within Hunt to kind of invoke a new program for after school instead of just the basketball, to where they're talking about they're going to teach kids carpentry and to build a shed. And I think one of the questions were we, insurance-wise, were we liable for that? And did Mr. Hemphill reply?
Mr. Hemphill did state that the board would need to approve. The Columbus Recreation Authority did give us a letter stating that they assume all liability. But that is not, I have not seen their insurance certificate saying that, but that's what they said on their liability statement, the letter that you see before you.
So, Mr. Dunn, can we approve it on the condition that they provide the insurance?
Now, they do have an insurance certificate on file for the
Right.
Hunt Gymnasium.
Right.
Okay.
But,
So, I mean, if we-
Yes.
that's on file.
Yes, you can approve it subject to their providing an insurance certificate.
Is it okay if they said they assume all liability?
I mean, yeah, it's fine.
So,
It's good.
Okay. All right. So, so board, the motion, and correct me, Mr. Dunn, if I'm state this incorrectly, but the motion would be to consideration to approve the Columbus Recreation Department to use the outside facilities at Hunt for their carpentry program, and hold us and them assume the liability of that program.
Yes, as prove as represented by their letter of, and make that part of the minutes.
Okay. So we'll just put that together, but that's the intent, is that we're approving, if the board approves it, we approve it with this letter being verification that they assume all those liabilities of the program at that site.
Right.
So, board, that would be our motion that we'll put together. Do I have a motion? I make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. So that brings us to, make sure that was all the items that you brought, correct? Okay. All right, so that brings us to our next item, which is item number 13, closed determination for executive session. Board, I need a motion to go into closed determination.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. All in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. We'll be out shortly to make our announcement. Okay, we have returned back to regular session. When we went into executive session, there was a motion by Dr. Verdell and a second by Dr. Shoemake. It was a 4-0 unanimous vote to go into executive session to take up the items that were announced to the public. And then we went into executive session, and we had executive session minutes that we took up as an action. The vote, there was Mr. Sparks made the motion, Dr. Shoemake made the second. It was a 4-0 vote for that item. Then we had a personnel matter that we took up. It was Mr. Sparks made the motion, Dr. Shoemake made the second. It was a 4-0 vote. Then we went in to the next item, which was a personnel matter, and it was a motion made by Dr. Verdell. It was seconded by Mr. Sparks. It was a 4-0 vote. We had a personnel item that the board took up. It was Dr. Verdell who made the motion, Dr. Shoemake who made the second. It was a 4-0 vote. Then we had an item, it's a board, how would that be listed, Mr. Dunn? Was it also personnel? I believe, yes, personnel, that it was Dr. Verdell that made the motion, I made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote. Then we had a request for recess, for a 5-minute recess. Dr. Verdell made the motion, Mr. Sparks made the second. It was a 4-0 vote. We took our recess at 9:15, and then we returned to executive session with Dr. Verdell made the motion, Dr. Shoemake made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote, and returned to session, executive session at 9:20. Then the board took up a personnel item, and Dr. Shoemake made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second. It was a 3-1 vote. Then we took up a personnel item. Mr. Sparks made the motion. I made the second, and it was a 3-1 vote. And now we're returning to regular session. Mr. Sparks made the motion. Dr. Verdell made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote. And board, that brings us to our last item on tonight's agenda, which is to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. So moved. So
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. We are adjourned.